Let's just do beets really fast and we'll talk about the idea of pickling. Okay, so what I've done here with the beets is I've boiled them. And you can cook them in any way you like. So boil them, steam them, however you want to cook them, in their jackets. So when we get these beets right here, you cut off the stems and the leaves, you save those, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then you just throw this whole thing in a pot of water if you're going to boil them, okay? Don't trim, don't open up the beet, because what you're doing is you're basically asking the beet to steam in its own jacket. You know, if you can imagine that the skin is a jacket around it. And so as it's boiling, it's steaming inside of that jacket. Now when they're knife tender, just when we can stick our knife in easily, we take them out, and then look how easily they peel. From this point on, the beet is an open canvas. Okay, you can take the beet anywhere. You can season it any way you like. You can make a vinaigrette for it. You can make, like we're going to do a pickle. You can chop it up. You can mix it with cheese. You can grate it and make a borscht. Right? I mean, it can take any seasonings. Any seasonings. They're very, very open to travel. Let's do our little wedges again. So we're just going to cut it in half. We have a nice flat surface, and we're working from that center point. Pickling liquid generally contains three things. Any guesses? Vinegar, salt, and spices. Exactly. This is much like a quick pickle. So we roast the beets, we steam the beets, we cook the beets however we want to cook them till they're nice and tender. We put them into a nice clean jar, and then we make a pickling liquid. And the pickling liquid that I've made here is apple cider vinegar is the base of that liquid. So you can use any kind of vinegar. And then in here I put some water and then some sugar. And then I put in spices that I had in my cabinet. I just made it up. So I put in mustard seeds. I put in peppercorns. I put in a bay leaf. If you want to, you can put in some crushed red pepper if you want to make it a little spicy. I didn't do that, but I love fennel. So I put fennel seeds in, and I put in some fresh dill that we got in our box last week. I put it on the stove, brought it to a boil, melted the sugar, and then I just let it sit on the stove overnight to blend everything together, melt everything together. And so then what you'll do is you'll take this liquid, and you can strain it beforehand or after, whichever, and you'll just strain it right through here and cover the beets with it. And also, I do have to say, since this is a quick pickle, like overnight, and you can serve these, you can save this liquid and do it again. You know, so you're not having to make a brine every single time. I pickle carrots, I pickle daikon radish, I pickle cucumbers a lot, because I think that it makes food taste better. You just put a little condiment of a pickled something on there, and all of a sudden, you know, it's really bright. I mean, if you think about all that beautiful, delicious cooking of, you know, Asia that has rice, vegetables, maybe some delicious meat, and then on the side, the pickle that makes everything taste so good, right? It's sweet and vinegary. And so I would pickle anything, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about what to do with these beautiful beet greens, because how many of us get beets and then just chop them off and throw this away? Have you ever tasted this? Have you guys tasted this? It's delicious. It's really, really good. They're sort of sweet, they're sort of tangy. They're really yummy. But they are delicious, so they're great sauteed for sure. Really easy. When they're small like this, you can just tear them up and put them into salads. Just really with some of your greens from your garden, from your box. And it just adds such a nice dimension to the salad. But if we have a lot of them, we can make a pesto. Even if we don't have a lot of them, even if we only have one bunch, we can make a little pesto. So you know how to make a pesto, right? Pesto is normally basil, right? But it can be any soft, tender green. So I take the beet greens, and you have a recipe. I take the beet greens and I mix it with some spinach, like 3-to-1. Put it in your Cuisinart. Some garlic cloves, and I would bump up the garlic here. I mean, do it to your taste. I like it garlicky, so some garlic cloves, a handful of walnuts. You can toast them or not toast them, whatever you like. Salt, pepper, cheese is always good in there, Parmesan cheese. And then get the motor running, pulse it a little bit to kind of finely chop the ingredients, And then put the motor on and drizzle in your oil. And your oil can be olive oil if that's what you have, but it can also be walnut oil to kind of tie the whole thing together. And it can be a toasted walnut oil. And then make a nice puree out of it and toss it with pasta. But you can also put it on crackers, you can put it on cheese, you can do a million things with a pesto, and you can freeze it. So if you're getting a lot of beets, you know, you can pickle your beets and you can make a pesto with your beet greens. And in January, when everybody is starving for something green to eat, you can be the one on your block that invites everybody over for beets and beet greens. So it's another great way to just utilize and be really sort of cognizant about utilizing all of the things that you get in your box.
Do you use the beet stems?
This part right here, you can saute this and eat this, cut them really fine, you know, and use them as a piece because they are very fibrous, but you certainly can use those for sure. I wouldn't grill them and use them as like a focus of a dish because they're fibrous, but they can definitely add immense flavor, beet flavor to a sauteed dish for sure. And you know, I love, like when you get something like this, I love taking it all apart, you know, roasting the beets, cutting the stems, sauteing them, maybe sauteing the leaves with it, and then putting it all back together again when you go and put it on the plate. It's sort of like everything's coming home. You know, you're just really doing honor to the beet and where it came from. All of those little pieces you've cooked with a different technique, but you're putting it all back on the plate together, which I think is fabulous.